Hi, Scott Orlin with CINEMA-Magazin here at the 12th Annual Zurich Film Festival, and I am with one of the actual coolest producers in the entertainment industry, Lorenzo Di Boneventura. Congratulations, he is the winner of the Career Lifetime Achievement Award here.
I know.
I mean, producers and studio executives usually never get honored like this, so what does it mean to you?
I have to say, first of all, it made me feel old when I did it, and I was like, well, am I done? Am I like, when you start getting something like that, you think, well, but then it gave me sort of a chance to reflect on my career, and for me, I've gotten better as a producer. I think the Deepwater Horizon is the best movie as a producer that I've done, and probably the best job I've done as a producer. So I'm now looking at it as the next phase.
But let me ask you, because I first met this man, he used to be one of the production executives at Warner Brothers.
Yep.
So a whole different capacity now as a producer. So just for those in Germany that are watching and think, do I want to work for a studio? Do I want to be an independent producer? How have you found the creative difference between those two?
Well, as a producer, you get to spend more time. As an executive, you are limited in the amount of time you have to do because you have to carry on your job and your corporate responsibilities. And so that takes you away from, you can't live on the set every day as you would as a producer. So you're invested, but you can't be quite as invested. On the other hand, you get to be invested in a lot of things a little bit. So in a way that sort of balances it out, because they have a lot of projects. As an executive, you have a lot of projects. And as a producer, you are limited on some levels to how many you can do. So you get a different satisfaction, I think, creatively as an executive because you're doing more, you got your finger in more pies.
Now, one of these pies that he's talking about, which he mentioned before, is Deepwater Horizon, which is the story of, if you remember, a few years back in the Gulf of Mexico, a horrific accident where an oil rig kind of exploded. And so much of what we learned was about the environmental disaster, but what the movie does is it makes it a personal story.
Yes, yeah. Well, we felt like the environmental disaster had been well covered. And then when we discovered that, to our surprise, that 11 people had died, because we'd seen a lot of coverage and none of us had really recognized that fact, that allowed us to get into the personal story of who those men were, but also then obviously you started investing in who the survivors are. And so we became really intimately aware of what it is to be like working on an oil rig, and what is it those people went through that night, which is an incredible tale of heroism and sacrifice. And I'm attracted to stories, especially real stories, I think, where you say to yourself, what would I do? And so many people on that rig did the right thing that night, which is why not more people were killed.
And one of the interesting things is, for my job, is I got to go on the set. And if you go to CINEMA-Magazin, you could read the set visit story. But this man tapped into one of my deepest, darkest fears, and that is heights. And you built this incredible set in the parking lot of an old amusement park where you built that oil rig. I mean, talk a little about the logistic challenge.
Well, it was crazy. It was 2 million pounds of steel. So right there you can see it's on a level that none of us had ever encountered before. I think there was our original intent by building it was to give you a sense of the scale, to give you a sense of the majesty of what these things are. And my belief is that visual effects look much better when you complement them with a lot of reality. So we wanted to have a lot of reality. The unexpected benefit was when you actually got up there, you really felt the height. We didn't really think about it, but the actors felt the height. And when you had fire up there and smoke and there's water beneath, and it's night, it felt differently, and I think it really helped the performances of all the actors, and the sort of sense of being there was much more tangible.
Now, you mentioned fire. Now, how bold and crazy of a producer is this guy? He set his lead actor on fire, Mark Wahlberg. In a moment like that, and you're watching it, it's an incredibly impressive stunt sequence. Does your heart palpitate a little bit?
Well, at first we were all like, this is really cool. We're going to set Mark and Dylan O'Brien, one of the young stars in the movie. Like, this is going to be great. And then you sort of like watch it and you're like, what are we doing? Are we going to kill, what are we going to do? Maim our movie star, So then everybody sort of stops and goes, are you sure this is going to work? But Mark, in typical fashion, and Dylan, were just like, sure, just go ahead. And we went ahead and did it.
Now, just a last quick question for you. As this man is one of the most prolific producers in Hollywood, he is now filming another movie of a franchise connection, Transformers 5. And we were just talking about this. Did you ever envision this little toy movie that was
No.
kind of handed to you would become this incredible worldwide franchise?
No, you first of all, you couldn't. But I think the biggest reason, I think in a way, the biggest reason that it's become what it is because the mythology they had already put together was so vast. And people had an affinity for the mythology more than the toy. You know, of course they love the toys, but they also grew up on the comic books or the television series. And we've been able to draw, and to me, you know, nothing is like Star Wars because Star Wars is its own thing, but this has every bit this extent of mythology that has. And so each movie, we're becoming more conscious of the scale of the mythology.
Well, Lorenzo, again, first of all, congratulations on Deepwater. Congratulations on your Career Lifetime Achievement Award.
Thank
and
you.
this is Scott Orlin. Until next time.
Thank you.